Hello, everybody, and welcome to this first and brand new community call where we are going to be giving everyone, our friends, our community, everyone that embraces and likes K6 to join us and have a talk with all the team, all the ones that we have here. And welcome again. First, we're going to get some introductions. As you can tell, here I am Leandro Melendez, K6 DevRel for Performance. And I have with me today Mr. Senor Paul. What's up, Paul? Welcome.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, Paul Baylog here, developer advocate, kind of focusing on SREs and extensions for K6.
Awesome. Welcome. And as I promised, as part of the all good people we have around here, I managed to snatch and kidnap for a moment our good old friends, Mostafa and Mihail. Mostafa, why don't you go first?
Hello everyone, I'm Mostafa. I'm a backend developer at K6 and happy to be here and be able to answer your questions.
Well, the community's questions, everyone's
Yes,
that has
the
this
community, yeah.
burning desires to ask us things. What about you, Mihail? Welcome. Thanks for joining.
Hi, I'm Mihail. I'm a K6 open source developer. I was going to say front-end developer from like some kind of perfect, but yeah, not really. And happy to be here to answer questions, which I usually do as well on the community forum and other places.
A very active participant in the community forum. I know, I've seen it. We have also in backstage our good friend Nicole van der Hoeven saying hi, and she's gonna help us coach and drive and do all these things so that things go as good as possible in this brand new first community call. So to start, I want to share with everyone some of the rules and how are we going to try to drive things today. Dynamics of this show. You can see us now. Right now, we are streaming live on a different channel. And we are going to be inviting whoever wants to talk, to give or post a question into a Zoom call. I mean, everyone like, hey, I'm not on a stream, I'm in a Zoom call. Yeah, you're on a Zoom call where you have been allowed in. If you want to post a question, to talk directly to the developers, you can activate your camera, you can start talking. You just have to raise your hand in Zoom. I will see the hand rising somewhere here over the Zoom window, and I will let you in so that you can pose your question or say, hey, Mostafa, I love your work, or directly talk to Paul or post any comment or questions that you would like to do. We will try our best to share them with you all. So if there's anyone, I see some people already joining in the Zoom call. If anyone wants to say hi, start any conversation right now, you're very welcome to lift your hand and let us know. But as well, we understand on these first time events, some of us might be a little bit shy or have a tough time jumping right away. We have some things that we want to also let you know, start talking about around this new release, because this community call event is going to be all around the release that we are going to be pushing every other month. And if you want to hear about what are them, what is up, I personally have some questions about them, where, well, we can start talking a little bit on these little details. So I am seeing more people joining us. I'll be repeating the instructions here and there when I see someone joining. Everyone, if you want to ask a question or talk here, raise your hand in the Zoom call, put that little thingy that you can bring up, and let us know that you want to come and give us some questions. So Speaking of, for now, while anyone gets digesting the questions or what they want to say or talk, I will start with one question that I had when I was reading this release. Even as I presented some of them, I have to say I don't fully understand some of these topics. And I'm curious, with this first part of the release, you have this basic event loops functionality changing or coming up, and me new on K6. What is this about? What is it specifically attacking or bringing to our set of functionalities? Who may help me understand?
I guess that have to be me.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah. So the event loops have been on the K6 backlog for quite a while, predominantly because we have never had enough resources to actually work on them, and like just having an event loop doesn't really do anything for the user. As this release shows, like as we said there, like yes, we now have event loops, but they're not used anywhere. They're now mostly useful for like in this release for extension developers who can now actually use them to have some asynchronous things happen in the background and then basically go back into JavaScript. The reason why there is nothing actually in K6 currently is because that would have taken probably a lot more time, and literally nobody would have been able to use them. And we decided to basically give it to extension developers, and so they can use them. And as well, that actually helps us test us ourselves. Like I have some already public extensions that I have fixed or enhanced with event loops. The changes aren't merged or public because like there were just like proof of concept changes, but like it seems to work. So like if you're an extension developer and up until this point you really wanted to have asynchronous callbacks, but like it wasn't possible in K6, which was the case up until this point, you now can use them. And the idea is that we, in this release, like the 0.38 one, the one that's currently being developed, we will probably only work on extensions and like try to actually use the event loops and see where there are problems and release extensions with like some functionality that current ones like are on the roadmap are implementing the fetch API, which is used to make HTTP requests in literally every browser. And since like I think a few months is now in Node.js under like a flag, if I remember correctly, it's not on by default. So like that's pretty like common API that like most people working with JavaScript and HTTP APIs would know how to use, but like K6 doesn't support it. So they did like to try to make it work in an extension first. And the other one's basically the WebSocket API that is like the I think it's a living like web standard. I forget what the committee body that works on like web standards is called. That like actually, but yeah. So both of those will be worked on, very likely by me, and like hopefully there will be some release that will have some of the functionality. Definitely not all of it. Like I've looked already at the fetch API specification. Like it's quite big, so like there is definitely no way that like I'm going to implement all of it. And hopefully in the next release we'll move some of those or some variants of those back into the K6 core and like have some kind of synchronous calls in the K6 core by default, basically.
Cool.
Go on, Paul.
No, I was just going to ask too. So right now there's the 4 event hooks, I guess, if you want to call them that. I guess are they essentially life cycle hooks?
They're currently. What do you mean hooks?
Like so those callbacks. So like there's the set timeout, set intervals, clear timeout, clear interval.
Yeah, those are not actually like meant to be used. They're only there for like a little while. They actually are already removed in a PR that I'm making.
Oh.
It's like we don't actually intend to like having them. But yeah, this is basically like a very like they're actually also in an extension somewhere. Like we can probably find it.
It's cutting edge, so things
Yeah.
get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very cutting edge. Like I have an extension that literally has them outside. I don't know who can actually link this in some chat somewhere, but yeah, this extension basically gives you access to set timeout, set clear timeout, and set interval and clear interval,
Uh-huh.
which is like web APIs, which are like we had some discussions. The original idea was that like we were probably going to put them in K6. Currently, the idea is that we probably won't put them in K6 in the end, predominantly because they both are very old, and in practice, like nobody really should be using them. Like they're not very useful in like the current state of the ecosystem at large, at least in our opinion. And secondly, there are no, or at least we couldn't find any integration tests done for them, which means that like we'll implement them and hope that we don't implement them slightly differently from like Firefox, for example, or Node.js, and then when we do, it will blow up in someone's face, and like it will be pretty bad. This, for example, is one of the reasons why like there is this like ECMAScript is defined by the TC39 committee, and like they have a whole test suite with like I don't know, they're not millions, but let's call it hundreds of thousands of tests that basically test that like your JavaScript interpreter or compiler like works in a very specific way, and that will be the way that like literally every other works as well. So like that makes like gives us pretty good guarantees that like we don't introduce bugs or like we don't stray from everybody else. But there is no such thing for like the set timeout ones. So unless it turns out like literally there is like extreme interest in them, we're probably not going to put them in K6 core just so we don't introduce bugs, probably.
And go on, Mostafa.
Yeah, so I was asking. So basically, the new API returns promises instead of set timeouts and stuff.
In the majority of cases, yes, the majority of new APIs, both in the ECMAScript standard and like in the web standards and Node.js, in Deno, for example, which is like the successor of Node.js for in some cases, I guess, depending on how you look at stuff. Like in all of those cases, you basically go with promises instead of like having callbacks. And this basically means that like set timeout and clear are like just not interesting at this point.
And that's something that also out of that's not a familiar term for me. TC39. Can you talk around that one? I mean, hopefully I'm not the only one that doesn't know very much
I
about.
have to look up what actually like TC means in that particular case because I'm not really certain. But yeah, I know I know that 39 is basically the number of committee in like the groups, but I don't remember what TC means. But yeah, it's basically a committee body that defines what ECMAScript is. I don't know since when it is around, but like it has members from like all around the industry basically. Like there are people who work for Google, for Firefox, for Microsoft, for like whoever you like think of. Like they probably have like a member on it. I don't know what the current apparently it's called technical committee. That's like the best name.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Great naming convention, I guess. But yeah, they're basically the people who decide what goes into the ECMAScript standard, which is basically what is the specification for JavaScript, which is like there are some trademark problems because of which it cannot be called JavaScript in the standard. But yeah, and yeah, they basically release a new version every year. I think in July. Let's say it's July. That's usually named ECMA and the year that it was released on. So yeah, and yeah, they have a site that is now shown, and like you can go look there. There is the specification. I would tell you not to read the specification. Like it's not generally.
It's not an exciting read.
I mean, it's an exciting read. It's just like not one that most people should probably embark on. Let's
Yeah,
put it
that's
this way.
kind of an RFC sort of thing. You don't
Yes.
go and read RFCs unless you need to. So
Yeah,
or
like
you are trying to
Unless you go to implement
go to
it,
bed
yeah.
or fall asleep
Yeah,
at times.
or that,
and-
yeah.
counting sheeps in ECMAScript.
yeah.
It's a good alternative. But another element that that is on the release that changing a little bit, I wanted to talk about. I know that there's this new functionality for a file output on the command line, and it got my attention. I know that someone else implemented it, and it's now part of the functions that the K6 tool can do. But why is this difference? Why it is implemented out there rather than the usual? I mean, because there was a already a functionality to output into files, right? What do you think is the benefit for this?
I guess you mean the walk output to a file?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically we didn't actually have a way to basically output to walks to files. Like this is kind of I would argue not really well defined in K6 because we just have never defined it really well. But we had previously a way for you to output your console.walk calls to a file, which was fairly useful for some users, but not every walk that like K6 will make throughout the whole execution of the program, just the ones that you make from JavaScript. And up until some point ago, I think now it's going to be probably a year and a half, but like there were literally like no other settings, but like just to output to the standard output, basically. Like it just puts no screen. You can redirect it to a file if you wanted to, but like that wasn't really like a way to do it. And back then we added export to walkie, which is a Grafana WAPS project for storing walks and then getting them back, hopefully. And yeah, and then someone basically decided to implement it with files, which was like fine, and like we merged it.
Improvements are always welcome.
Yeah, it was just not a functionality that we needed, and nobody has actually asked it for it before that. So yeah.
So at least this way, sorry, I was just going to say, at least this way now you can specify the JSON output so that it's a little bit easier for things to parse those log entries like Loki or Splunk or wherever you want to forward these to.
Yeah, I guess this also lets you output to a file and then use some other tool to basically read that file and send it somewhere, which is a very common way to do it with Box, basically.
I mean, and to me, this adds up some sort of functionality where probably you don't want to embed that in the script, that output or those traditional ways. You want just to control it or put it at times in your CI. Other times you don't want to have it. Or I think it gives some advantages, some functionality, but wasn't unsure what was the reason behind it. I mean, definitely I see improvement and use on it, but wasn't sure where was the difference. We had in K6 News, for the ones that didn't watch them, we had our friend Ivan Paladino coming to contribute and talk about it as well. But yeah, I was curious of this all difference and new applications that we can have with this. I think it's way better and easier to programmatically implement these things from a CI platform or integration. But okay, let's go on some of the other things that really caught my attention. This the next one is this change on the thresholds parsing from the JavaScript function that was before to the Go new parsing through Go, which I think I said was before. They are not completely rolled out, right? Or how does this work?
It's basically, I guess, completely rolled out.
Okay.
We have more changes in the pipe. Like we'll make more checks basically to like better like return some errors in common cases where people make thresholds that look okay but that don't actually evaluate to anything or like don't evaluate correctly. But yeah, for a very like since the beginning, thresholds were basically executing JavaScript code with like some additional values that were basically the values of the metrics that the threshold was defined on. But that had some problems. First, you can like literally run JavaScript code, like whatever. Like if you wrote like a whole JavaScript script in that field, that's the threshold. You can write whatever you want. That wasn't so great. Also, it's kind of really hard to basically work with. And maybe like the major reason why we actually decided to do it kind of is that in the cloud, this is not actually how thresholds are evaluated. They're not evaluated in like through the K6 code base. So like that was a place where we had some problems, but I don't think that many people have ever actually done anything but the most simple of thresholds that are currently supported through the Go parsing. Like literally, I have never seen any user who actually tries to write JavaScript code in the thresholds. It's just a thing that they could do, and like it was very strange that you can do this. On top of that, it's definitely more performant. Like we're no longer executing JavaScript code. We're literally doing like a very light comparison to values, which is like a lot faster as well. But yeah, basically portability and like literally some speed, I guess. But yeah, and we like another team member is currently working on making it even more easy to use. So like it will actually tell you if you try to use, for example, a rate on a counter type metric, which doesn't have basically a rate, and like would evaluate to like nothing. I don't know if even like what currently will happen, like whether or not it will be a runtimer or not, but like it will basically not be what you want, and like it's much better to basically tell you upfront that you try to do something that won't work.
So it's basically a breaking change. Sorry, Paul.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's a breaking change. It's even marked as such, but like I really don't think anyone would like actually view it as a breaking change. I hope.
I see. Yeah.
Like,
you
yeah,
explained it.
we'll see, obviously, but like, yeah, like for example, our cloud users definitely shouldn't, unless we obviously have a bug, because like that's a possibility. Shouldn't view it as a breaking change because it is more or less what the cloud basically parses as well. So like it's basically that. So yeah.
Good.
And it's interesting because that part where you mentioned that you could put whole JavaScript makes me remember some SQL injections or some things that can even be risky, right? It's good that we took off that part.
But like in this case, I don't think that there are any such problems. It's mostly a case of
getting in weird stuff.
Yeah, like we, for example, have a test that literally was like 2 is bigger than 1. Like that was the threshold. Like it makes absolutely no sense that you would write a threshold like that but like it was a possible, like it obviously always returns true, but like, yeah. So things like that are no longer possible. Basically, the current syntax is the metric. I forget what we call them, but like let's call it the metric property, then an operator, and some static value that we want to compare. So if we want to, for example, compare the rate of something to be always smaller than some number, it would be a rate smaller than, and then the number you want to compare. And like that's has always been the case. Like in the cloud, that's the only kind of thresholds that were ever supported. And in practice, we have never even documented any other variant of thresholds. Like our documentation has always been only about this kind of thresholds.
I am seeing some activity here. There's a question from Matt. It's a little bit long. And oh, thank you very much. So yeah, and it seems like Matt is having some issues with the camera and the audio, so that's why it's better to have it written. But he's asking, what are the plans for developer experience with using K6 extension in test scripts? Can you? I think it test scripts. There doesn't seem to be something built in for generating definitely typed files, so that the TypeScript can be able to cleanly be used with extension code. In example, no IntelliSense with the XK6 SQL extension classes in TypeScript. Wow, that was a mouthful. Thank you very much, Matt, for your question. Thank you for helping and sharing this with us. Anyone can give a better insight on this?
I think Mihail is the person to answer this question, but basically,
I have a feeling that all the questions will be for me.
Yeah. So you're
the
a
most-
K6 OSS developer, so
Wasn't Paul supposed to be the person with the extensions?
Yeah, well, yeah, eventually, I'm hoping, but yeah, no. As far as the developer experience, I mean, yeah, I was going to put a teaser in the agenda toward the end that hopefully we'll be focusing a little bit more. At least I'm pointing at myself here for that. For the extension ecosystem, the XK6 SQL being one of those projects, and I know that there was a contribution for that. But as far as like doing IntelliSense, where yeah, as you're in an IDE and being able to get hints and things like that, I don't know about that. But yeah, we're definitely going to be focusing a bit more on that to hopefully make it easier for folks to ramp up and use extensions and create additional extensions. So yeah, so hopefully that's not too much of a tangent around your question there, but yeah, we do want to start focusing on that to make them easier to pick up on. So
yeah. So I can give a very short. I can give a short, non-useful answer to that. So yeah,
it's going to be
we
more
talk-
useful than mine.
No. So I don't know. So the thing is, we've internally talked about LSP servers, so language,
Yeah,
blah blah, language servers that we can attach to like VS Code and other IDEs that can support these. And I personally went. Tom and I went and dig into that, and I wanted to create something, but eventually, it's a rabbit hole. So you enter from one side and you don't know where you end up at the end. So I ended up creating a debugger for Goja, which is the JS
the JavaScript,
engine, JavaScript engine for K6. And then Mihail came in and added the corrected my code. I'm not a Go developer. And so if you see on my profile, let me see if I can share it. So I hoped, and basically we hoped, we will be able to create this debugger and merge it into the mainline Goja framework, and then eventually from that debugger, we could create an LSP server so that we can feed the script to the Goja through K6, and then add some breakpoints and stop execution and try to communicate with this debugger and eventually the LSP server to try to see, because LSP could be a client both to the debugger and to the IDE, so it's something in between. So if we don't have the debugger, LSP doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense to have an LSP, because then we should write all the logic in the LSP, which also again doesn't make sense. We should create another Go job plus a debugger inside JavaScript inside an LSP server, which is not a good idea. But I don't know. So the Goja debugger is not merged yet, so the developer hasn't had time, basically, I think, to go through, because it's a huge PR and a lot of changes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and so this link that I have pasted, if you can share it, this is the client to that debugger. So the Goja debugger that I have linked to is a debugger to. So if you want to be able to test it, there's also link to a POC debugger that Mihail developed that works with one VU in K6. It's all linked in this link. So and then you can debug your script. It's not a 100% feature-rich debugger, but it has the very basic functionalities. So nexting, continuing, adding breakpoints and stuff. So basics, very basics.
I don't know. That'll be cool. That would definitely be a help, being able to have that.
Hope so. I hope I have answered at least part of Matt's question. But in terms of definitely types and stuff, I don't know about that. So.
No, and reading from Matt's responses, he says, cool, thanks. Thank you all for the responses, and that the LSP debugger sounds neat. So I think he's pleased.
Yeah.
Oh, let's
and
also.
Thankfully you're monitoring the Zoom chat, because I'm definitely not seeing that. I'll see any of the chat for questions coming from LinkedIn or Twitch or YouTube.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you can see our, at least my handle or our handles for Twitter. Just shoot a message, mention us, and I'm monitoring it. So I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, any follow-ups? We are checking multiple channels, multiple places, just to make sure that we can answer all your questions, and the ones that are not, probably, well, we have the support forum, which we all are happy. Well, mostly Mihail and Mostafa. Paul and I try to keep up, but you're getting always help on those channels. And I mean, quick note for the ones I've seen, some that joined not long ago. I'm repeating, if any of you want to pose your questions, make your voice being heard in this community, or just be famous and say hi, just raise your hand in the Zoom call, and we will link you in so that you can talk directly to our world famous developers and amigos.
Yeah, it shouldn't also, let me add something. It shouldn't have to be about the new release. It could be about anything about K6.
Any other questions.
We are here to answer those. So,
I mean, about K6, we'll try to answer other questions that are not related on our best capacity.
We'll do our best,
Yeah, except for why other scripting languages aren't supported, right? That's we're cutting that one off. No discussion there.
No comments.
Yeah,
we already have an answer to that.
Yeah,
no need to repeat ourselves.
Yeah. I don't know. I always feel the need to be the one to stir the pot, as they say. So yeah.
No, But it's a good comment because we have some of those things floating around that here and there we will read again, and it's like capacity wise, let's get really really good at one, and then let's start talking about other options while before getting into too much trouble. All right, so let's keep talking around these releases, these extensions, these things that happen on this release .37, where while we get some more questions. I mean, we will always be happy to interrupt to make your voice being heard, or we will make up your voice if you have no audio. So another thing that I wanted to bring up and talk is about some deprecations that I noticed that happen around the extensions, around some of these functionalities that were removed. What was the deal with this? What happened, and why were they deprecated?
I guess this is again for me.
It might be from you, Mihail.
Oh yeah. Go on.
Yeah. So yeah, basically we are deprecating very old API on how not only extensions but literally the modules in K6 as well used to integrate with K6, like K6/HTTP is basically the same code base as it will be in an extension. It's just inside of K6. And that API was designed very, very long time ago by literally not anyone currently on the development team of K6. And we have had many different types of problems, including in my opinion, the very big one that like most people weren't really, and by most people, I mean like I'm pretty sure that currently only I on the team am aware of how it worked, because whoever else also managed to understand it at some point have forgotten it. I'm also trying to forget. It's just like it takes time. But yeah, basically the API was very. It wasn't obvious why it worked and why you need to do certain stuff, and even explaining it didn't really explain why you're doing some stuff. It was literally like you need to code this in these cases, and like there were no explanation why you need to do this. On top of that, it was actually slow and was preventing some additional use cases. Like if you wanted to use the API, so like you can go back, you would actually not be able to get the original value of what you were giving to the API. So like there are basically a bunch of different problems. So after some deliberation and like figuring out that like obviously this doesn't work great, we came up with a new API. It was added, I think, in like August or September of last year, or like the release at that time. And now we basically decided that like now that we have moved literally all the internal APIs to that, and like we have made some additional changes, so it's actually even more ergonomic. We decided like there is literally no reason why we should keep supporting it. It also requires to do some stuff that are like again even in our code, like not even like the code that like is using it, but the code that actually supports it. There are a bunch of stuff that like you don't have like unless you know and like you understand why it works the way it works. You have no idea why you have a pointer to this type that like you literally never have to have a pointer to, but like it's a requirement in order to make the API works. And like all of those things combined basically made it like we decided to like deprecate it and like actually can remove a bunch of code that like is very hard to maintain. I'm pretty sure we have probably broken something in it along the way as well. Like we just haven't noticed because like it's really complex. So yeah, unfortunately, this does mean that like not every extension, because I know of some extensions that definitely don't use this, but I would expect most extensions that are not toy projects would actually be broken. Luckily, in most cases, the fixes are fairly straightforward. Yeah, like you literally need to now not do some stuff and like use the new API instead. So that's like it should be a lot easier to like understand why like the new API actually works even without actually reading the documentation. Like it's a lot more obvious like what you need to do to make it work and why it works now instead of like before that. So
It's more optimal, and I mean, any all the time is good to start pushing away all things that are not used so much, or if we have the new APIs, well, why to keep some of all of those old things? So we also have a few questions, and
Yes, they're
things
coming in.
Coming in.
Yeah.
Let's go on first with Ismail Katami. I hope I'm pronouncing it well. Sorry, Ismail, if I'm not. So, hello all. I'm interested in the performance tests, especially with K6. Do we have any resources for everything that is fundamental, a performance test, a book that contains exercises or use cases? Oh, there are so many things that we can answer around that. Around performance testing specifically, K6 has some comments, some blog posts, some papers. I already went through several of them, where we explain some pieces of the performance testing process, what things to take care of, where do K6 excels on, and I know we have several things in other blogs and documentation. For books, I mean, should I do the
self-promotion? Cha-ching, cha-ching.
A weird guy out there wrote a book about traditional load testing projects, the Hitchhiking Guide to Load Testing Projects. It gives you some
Not named Leandro. Not named Leandro. Definitely not.
This guy that publishes weird books, but it tries to explain some performance testing topics and practices, best practices for focusing on traditional load testing projects. There's another book in progress that will go around Agile. I have some more recommendations, but you guys, what do you have under your sleeves for that?
I can add a few things. So if you go to the k6io/docs, in the left like menu, I don't know what is it called, side panel. If you scroll down a little bit, there is a section called testing guides. There are a few testing guides for testing websites, API load testing, automated performance testing, and also running large tests. I would say if you want to test APIs, API load testing would be a good starting point for this, and the rest for other use cases. There are also a lot of blog posts about it. So depending on your specific use case, for example, if you're using Postman, there's a blog post that shows how you can convert your Postman collections to K6 scripts. Or if you're using OpenAPI specifications for your documenting and documenting your API and eventually testing them, you can use like OpenAPI generator, and there's also another blog post for that. So use the keywords that you are interested in and search in the blog for that keyword. You will definitely find some article about it. And yeah, that's my 2 cents basically.
Okay. Any other quick thing before we jump to the next one?
Oh.
There's another repo on Grafana account, so github.com/grafana/ I think awesome-k6, if I remember correctly. So there are some pointers to some articles and like videos and a lot of things there. So I don't know if it's still updated, but that's also another resource that you can start.
I want to go over as well, because we also have the Zoom channel where we are getting also some more questions, and I want to tackle this because it's a quick and easy one. Even he said so very gladly. And I think it's a little bit around to understand why are we moving so blazing fast on these releases. A less technical question from Mark at the Zoom channel, and more about resources dedicated to K6. He's asking, how big is the developer team at Grafana Labs dedicated to K6? I know those numbers have been changing a little bit lately. Do any of you know more or less how many are bringing to life this K6 miracle? And
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, we're hiring, by the way.
If you want to join, yeah.
If there was any other intention behind the question.
Yeah.
So, how many devs do we have in the team? How many are we? Do we have an idea? I mean, it doesn't have to be a specific exact head count, but I don't.
Yeah, it looks like core is 9, isn't it?
I don't think we are 9. We're 5, I guess, is the correct number that like you're looking for, which is kind of public, because if you go to the GitHub repo, we actually have like
who's who there.
and no, maybe, but like we have basically an action that like will put reviewers on pull requests, and like if you go look there are like 5 names in the list, so obviously we're 5. Yeah.
So
I think you're past 40
in total, right?
Yeah, in total. I think, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So Mark is saying that he had no other intentions and that 5 is a solid team size. So thank you for the questions, Mark. We're always happy. I know there was someone else asking.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions in YouTube. If have a look.
Yeah.
Let's start getting
From
one at a
Pixel
time.
BG.
Find that. Yeah, there we go. Oop. There you go.
So Pixel BG is using the InfluxDB to visualize stress tests in Grafana, an awesome mix that I used to do a lot before. But K6 doesn't natively support InfluxDB2. Are there any plans to support it outside of XK6? That's a very good question.
Mihail.
Yeah, I guess I'm getting all the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, one
You're
thing.
the man.
Rising.
You have that, Prometheus, you have,
I think we had plans to move all the output extensions into extensions, basically. Kind of remove, like, what do you say? Cut the flesh from K6, make it smaller and stuff.
right.
So that, like, for example, if someone wants one output extension, just compile it with XK6 and there you go. Not that have like 7 different output extension, but you use none. So, memory usage and stuff.
Basically, we don't have, or at least I don't think we have like a final decision on neither the whole picture nor the particular case of InfluxDB version 2. The general idea, last we have discussed this, is that we would support some amount of outputs natively, and those need to be probably both very popular and not complex to support. One of the, like, we did actually have pull requests to actually get InfluxDB version 2 support in K6, looking at it from like September of last year. And that's actually what ended up being the extension currently. The predominant reasons being that, one, we had some problems actually integrating in the same way that we integrated the original version 1, which meant that like there would be breaking changes. The other one was that actually this was adding like 100,000 lines of code, because like that's the dependency of like InfluxDB version 2, basically. And I'm currently trying to see where it is. But yeah, this also added like 3 megabytes to the binary, which at that time was like 10% increase in the binary size of K6 for like one output. So given that, we decided it's probably not that great of an idea to like just add this. So we moved it to an extension. But yeah, in general, the idea would be that like we have a bunch of pull requests at this point, very output requests, for which we are sorry, that try to add like different outputs that are not very popular in our opinion, or like are popular but that aren't very useful for the case of K6 basically. Like one of those was actually like an output that, as far as we can understand, has a very low limit on the amount of metrics that we can send to it, which means that K6 will probably overload it. Like that's just like not the idea of the particular product. It's not to like actually send a ton of metric to it. So like it just doesn't support it. So like in those cases, it makes very little sense for us to like have them in K6, because like once we have it in K6, we do actually need to support, as I explained probably a lot on like internal meetings, and like many other open source developers have said probably million times at this point publicly. While the person who makes the pull request probably needs to only make the pull request and like get it merged, the person actually maintaining it has to maintain it for until they decide to remove it, basically. So yeah, like even currently we do have to maintain the other outputs. Like there are some small changes every once in a while. We need to optimize them. We need to look at them. If we make any kind of small internal breaking change, we now have to like go fix them. We have fixed some in some cases extensions when like we make breaking changes, and we have gone and like be like, okay, like we will tell you that like this is broken, so like you can like fix it, and like here is a PR which basically implements what needs to happen. And but yeah, basically having like 50, 60 outputs is not going to be very scalable whatsoever. Like I remember times long time ago when the team was smaller, and I was probably like a month was spent with me basically working like 1 or 2 outputs to make them work again, or like make them a bit faster or something like this, which could have been time spent on like implementing event loops a month earlier.
Yeah, exactly. That's overwhelming. The
Yeah.
more support for different outputs, inputs, whatever you add to your software, it's basically more maintenance, more support, more time you should spend.
And you have already heard how many people are taking care of these things. So we gotta prioritize these things, right?
Yeah, I mean, and speaking as a Grafana Labs, you know, probably Prometheus would be the best option anyway.
Favorable.
Yeah.
Probably at some point we'll have Prometheus. Like that's actually planned to have the Prometheus output, which is currently extension in K6, but like not this release or the next one probably.
And it's always this balance in between what is in demand, what things do the people are saying, like, hey, this would be super useful, we get more, and the +1+1, and it's like, okay, it's there's demand. Is it doable for us? We will. Yeah,
and that's where hopefully too with the future, as we kind of with all these different extensions, and like I said, I've been going through trying to inventory all these extensions that we know about, whether they're JavaScript ones or output extensions, trying to collect all those. And then but anyway, just trying to make the XK6 ecosystem a little bit easier, so that you know, maybe you don't have to be a Go developer to actually, you know, have be able to run XK6 to build your own custom binary. We can make these things a bit easier to deal with. That way, then we can keep the actual binary that of K6 slim and fast, you know, because otherwise, if you keep bringing in all these different extensions and building them up, you're just adding bloat that may not be worth it. So
I see a very interesting comment here about Prometheus and about these type of limitations that Bixel is experiencing. I think this is something that we need to bring up in Grafana's community call, because seems like there are some elements that need to be worked around and integrated better. Sounds like the lack of plugins or some of these enablements maybe limiting, right?
Yeah, I
we
mean, I was
don't.
running into that too with just a nice dashboard for the metrics results. In Grafana, that's something there. But yeah, that write enabled is definitely something that has to be turned on your Prometheus environment to make that API available. But I thought I saw some things where that's like no longer considered experimental, that's going to be the default going forward.
That would be
I may be
nice.
wrong. Yeah. So
That would be really
that
nice,
should
yeah.
be a safe thing. I think I saw Olha did commented on a open issue with that.
Okay.
So
Let's see where all this starts to go, hopefully.
yeah.
And
But definitely as far as like a dashboard, to create something that's nice and usable that we could even put in the Grafana plugin community. To be able to pull down that dashboard to have your metrics reported there nicely. That's things on the list to look into for sure.
okay, so Mark, our friend is having to leave. We are getting close to the closing time of our call. Oh wow, my the computer that was running the Zoom call just died. So it's an awesome time to get a blue screen, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
let's
good timing.
Yeah.
At least it was near to the end. I am thankful for that. But so to start to ramp down, pun intended, I see one more question that seems to be easy-ish to answer from Satish, new on K6 and performance testing in general, and wants to do 20,000 API requests per minute. How to do it in K6? I would say easily, but there are multiple ways that you may be able to pull this off. You could create a good script and expand it locally. You can leverage K6 Cloud and distribute it and have an easier time, because 20,000 per minute, I think
It's just nothing
it's not
much.
that
Yeah.
bad.
I mean, like
Yeah.
with 3 to 400 virtual users, you can easily simulate that.
Yeah, and you'd really just want to use that the arrival rate executor. And that way, then you can specify that you want 20,000 requests per minute, and then it'll handle all that for you. I think that's the right one, isn't it? Arrival rate executor.
I mean, there are multiple ways in which we could pull that off, and
constant request rates is one of them.
Yeah,
there's a blog post about it actually.
Okay, we lost all the participants in the community call in Zoom, so they understood that we were gonna leave anytime soon. So any last comments, any things, Mihail, super popular today? Any closing comments that you want to do before we start getting out?
not really. Just come to the community forum and ask your questions there, if there are any more, I guess. And any feedback on the event loop through extensions will be nice.
We're looking forward to that feedback. Mostafa?
Yes, I was hoping I could give a short introduction to changes on cloud, but time's running out, so let's do it on the next community call. And I'd be happy to answer any K6 cloud question that I can answer, basically. So it's not about only K6 OSS, it's about OSS. And
we have updates that we couldn't get to. If anyone, please go and look on our GitHub. We have the release notes on k6.io. In the cloud documentation, we have also the release notes. They don't happen at the same time as the OSS release, so there are many more that happened in between. And take a look at them. Paul, last words?
No, I just want to say thank you to all our contributors. We've had a couple new ones over this past month or so. And then, I look forward to working with more of you on the extension ecosystem and, look forward to just improving things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you,
and sending out
guys.
swag.
Oh yeah, we will be pampering our best contributors and helpers. We have some champions out there. Stay tuned.
Yes.
And on my end, thank you, Mihail and Mostafa. I know it's tough to answer all these questions, especially Mihail. You were the hero today. Paul, thank you for the help, and thank you everyone that joined us. I look forward for the next one. We'll make sure to have more information, cover the cloud, and all these little things that from time. You can send questions in advance. We can start looking at them. We will start changing the dynamics here, and it will be even more entertaining. So everyone, thank you very much for staying here. And for the rest watching us, you stay classy, K6. Have a great one.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.